Chapter 5 is called Happy Campers. After breakfast the next morning, Maria kindly slipped me some yummy strawberries. Og and I watched through the sunny open windows of the rec room as Miss Mack and the other counselors headed outside and began to set up tables and put up banners reading, "Welcome to Camp Happy Hollow." Believe me, they were busy, busy, busy. "The fun's beginning soon," I said to Og, although what I was watching looked more like work than play. And then a line of cars came up the bumpy road, parking near the hall. The car doors opened, and out poured moms and dads and kids of all shapes and sizes. Suitcases, boxes, backpacks, and duffel bags came out of car trunks and started piling up near the tables. "Og, look at all the people, moms and dads and whole families coming to camp," I told my neighbor. Og leaped up. "Boing, boing, boing," he twanged. Then it came. I should have expected it, knowing Mrs. Wright was around, but the piercing blast from a whistle that is very painful to the small, sensitive ears of a hamster surprised me so much I squeaked, "Eek!" rather loudly. Not that anyone could hear me, since Mrs. Wright blew the whistle again. "Line up the tables and get your packets," Mrs. Wright ordered the families. "Line up, please." I crossed my paws and hoped the families would line up before she could blow her whistle again. But she did, anyways. "In an orderly fashion, please," she insisted. Once the families were in line, I noticed something. While many of the faces were new to me, I recognized some of the people in line. "Look, Og, there's Repeat It Please Richie," I squeaked. "From room 26. Og splashed wildly. "Boing, boing, boing, boing." I climbed higher up in my cage to see what Og was so excited about. "It's Stop Giggling Gail," I squeaked. There was a flash of blue next to her, and her brother, Simon. Simon was always on the move. "Boing, boing," Og said before diving to the bottom of his tank. As I peered out the window at the growing crowd of kids and parents, I saw another familiar face. It was Saya. She and her family and her father looked a little bit lost among the bustle of excited families. "Hi, Saya, it's me, Humphrey," I squeaked at the top of my lungs. Unfortunately, my small voice didn't carry above the hubbub of the crowd. Luckily, her friend, Golden Miranda, appeared behind her. The girls hugged, and Saya's dad shook hands with Miranda's dad. There were two other familiar faces with Miranda. I was glad to see Abby, Miranda's stepsister. She didn't go to Longfellow School, but I'd met her at Miranda's house. I was not glad to see the other familiar face. My heart skipped a beat when Miranda's dog, Clem, hopped out of the car. After all, Clem is bent on my total destruction. I've always managed to outwit him so far. Luckily, Miranda's dad quickly put him back into the car, much to my relief. "Richie! Hey, Richie!" That booming voice could only belong to Lower Your Voice AJ, who had arrived with his friend Garth and Garth's parents. "AJ, it's me, Humphrey Dumpty," I shouted, using AJ's favorite name for me. Again, he couldn't hear me above the noise. Neither could his brother Ty, who was standing next to him. Mrs. Wright gave her whistle another mighty blast, and Aldo helped her get the people to line up at the tables. Then, one by one, the families hurried off on paths going in many directions and disappearing. They headed toward the cabins, and I figured that each cabin would house a different family. I figured wrong, because to my amazement, after a while, the parents all returned to their cars and drove away, leaving their children behind at Camp Happy Hollow. "Og, they can't leave their children here all alone," I told my neighbor. "Boing, boing," Og twanged in agreement. But they had. I thought for a while and realized they were actually weren't all alone. Aldo and Miss Mack were at camp, and Mrs. Wright and the other counselors. They could help the kids, and so could I. Maybe, just maybe, a camp needed a pet hamster as much as a classroom did. It was so peaceful and quiet after the ruckus at the tables that I had a nice little nap, but I was rudely awakened by the ding-donging of the loudest bell I'd ever heard. It was even louder than Mrs. Wright's whistle. Og must have heard it, even if I can't see his ears, because he leaped so high he almost hit the top of his covered tank. Suddenly, the paths were filled with kids wearing shorts and t-shirts, all headed straight for Happy Hollow Hall. Some were laughing and joking, and some looked as if they had been crying. My friend Gail definitely wasn't giggling anymore. There were yummy smells coming from Maria's kitchen, so I didn't think anyone could be crying for long. Once they were in the hall, I couldn't see the campers, but I certainly could hear them. My friends in room 26 got pretty noisy sometimes, but there were many, many, many more kids at camp, and they were all talking at once. "Goodness, Og," I squeaked over the racket. "If Mrs. Brisbane were here, she'd quiet them down." Og splashed around agreeably. until there was a loud, shrill blast. Things settled down then, and for once I was almost glad Mrs. Wright was there with her whistle. I couldn't make out anything that was being said, but I heard Hap Holloway welcoming the campers. Then Miss Mack taught the campers a song about chewing. I am not kidding. Since hamsters are excellent chewers, I enjoyed the words a lot. Chew, chew, chew your food gently through the meal. The more you chew, the less you eat, the better you will feel. Then the hall got noisy again, with talking and clinking and clanking of forks and spoons. I was getting unspeakably curious about what was happening in the hall, but I didn't think it was a good idea to slip out of my cage while it was still light outside. After a while, the whistle blew and things quieted down again. Hap Holloway had said something about campfire and games, and then he said, "You'll be getting to know your new friends over the next few days, but I want you to meet 2 more happy Holloway campers." Just as I was wondering who they might be, Aldo came into our room and picked up Og's tank, while Miss Mack picked up my cage. Things were really buzzing when we came into the room. "Humphrey Dumpty!" AJ shouted, and some of my friends cheered. "Og the Frog!" Garth shouted, and other friends cheered. Mrs. Wright had to blast her whistle several more times until things were quiet again. I looked around and oh my, the tables were filled with enthusiastic boys and girls, even the ones like Gail who had looked weepy before had perked up quite a bit. Hap Holloway introduced us and explained that we'd be staying in different cabins every night and that each cabin would have a chance to earn us for the night by keeping their cabins neat and obeying the rules. The kids clapped and stomped their feet, and I did too. Then Hap told them that for the first night, while they were at the campfire, the counselors would be checking out the cabins to see how well everyone had unpacked and made their beds. There were a few groans, which probably meant there were some unmade beds. But I wasn't groaning. I was squeaking with joy because Og and I weren't going to be stuck in some wreck of a room from now on. Og and I were really, really, really going to camp. Note to self: nothing can cheer a person or hamster up faster than seeing an old friend. Chapter 6 is called Cabin Fever.